Alrighty, and we are back with Rick. Rick, what is up, dude?
Hey, not much. Great to be back. Welcome back. You just got back from Spain today, right?
Yeah. I'm back, baby, and I am not that happy about it. I really
No.
like Spain. Spain was great. I like the tapas and the siestas and stuff like that.
Did you happen to talk to any Spaniards about U.S. politics or any current events going on in the world or anything?
No, other than I did the thing that I think a lot of people do this in general, but definitely embarrassed Americans do, where they say the city they're from rather than saying the U.S. when people ask. Or I'm from Boston, hoping they think that means I'm one of the good ones, even though, it's kind of shameful, frankly, to do that, but I did do it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've
Would you
heard
do
like
that?
you should.
Yeah.
When I studied abroad, I remembered people saying like a lot of Europeans would know Boston, but not know Massachusetts. So like most of the time, Boston's okay. It depends what country you're in, though, I guess. I was in Denmark where they speak English well and they can peg you for an American the second they see you. So to say, oh, I'm just from the United States, you get like, yeah, I know. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not
So they actually
surprised
are
here.
looking for the more specific thing.
I feel like it's a little bit more interesting. Also, I learned a little bit of a fun fact about Spain that actually, I don't know how this reflects on anyone, just interesting. Well, when I was going, I was pretty shocked that their time zone isn't the same as Portugal's or England's, even though they're more west. They're on the same time zone as Central Europe, France, and Germany and stuff like that. And I was wondering why, so I was doing some research on this, and this little fun fact, in case anyone was curious, is that the reason why it's in that time zone is that when Spain was run by Franco, the fascist, he wanted to appease Hitler, so he wanted to be on the same time zone as Germany, and that's why they set it to that. And so that's part of the reason why it's light out there so long, because they're incorrectly time zoned, which is part of the reason why they eat dinner so late, because everything's just kind of not actually set to where it should be, like sun-wise, like rotation of the earth-wise. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how some of these World War II things that were rooted in weirdness are still not changed, like the fact that white people are called Caucasians, and that was part of a Hitler movement to try to prove that actually the first humans were from the Caucasus Mountains and like stuff like that. And there are all these little like nuggets that have like kind of lingered on. I mean, they're fine. I mean, I don't know if they're fine, but it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I just learned the other day, this is random, but I saw a chart of like famous dictators' heights, and Hitler, it was like 5'9", which makes sense to me. But Joseph Stalin was like 5'6" or 5'7". I always thought he was like 6'6".
He looks huge on the...
that was the biggest shock. Yeah, they definitely make him look bigger in statues and stuff.
He looks pretty dominant in the photos. He looks like a serious giant man.
Yeah,
well,
he was like 5'6".
Well, who's, not comparing them at all to Joseph Stalin, but who's also remarkably small? Kim Kardashian. She's 5'2".
Really?
I feel like she comes off a lot like taller and more because of her presence,
For sure.
Yeah, like just thinking about her, this like media mogul being this like little tiny person running around, it kind of just changes everything. I don't know. I think she has a little bit of like she's like one of the most dominant figures of American culture over the last 20 years, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's true.
As well as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who claims he's 6'5" and he's 6'2". Most people
Joe
say.
Rogan, who claims he's 5'9" and he might be 5'2".
Yeah.
How tall is Rogan? Isn't Rogan like 5'1" or something crazy like that?
I think he claims 5'8" and he's like 5'4".
Yeah. Sad. Anyway, but, hey, you're born that way, but I don't know why you claim that you're that high. Anyway, but we got a lot of news to talk about. Obviously, we were off last week. Did you enjoy your time in respite? Did you take it as a break, or were you still kind of absorbing?
I was absorbing, I was relaxing, looking forward to a nice White House Correspondents Dinner with my favorite psychic, but things went awry. So
they didn't even make it to the show. And I think that's a natural place for us to start. I mean, so as many know, if not everyone listening know, there was another assassination attempt on Trump, this time at the Correspondents' Dinner. 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen, he apparently stormed a Secret Service checkpoint at the Washington Hilton during the Correspondents' Dinner. Important to note that Trump, Melania, Vance, the cabinet, Kash Patel, they're all there. So basically everyone's there during an active war. And actually, one Secret Service member took a round to the chest. He was okay, bulletproof chest. Shows that, shots were fired. Weirdly enough, this is actually the second assassination attempt at this Hilton. Higgin was shot there in 1981. I guess they haven't tightened security over the last 40 years. They've kept it pretty loose. And then another person, I think, got hit in the hand. Anyways, so much controversy out of this. And I want to hear what your thoughts were when you saw this news break, because a lot of drama right off the jump. And because there's way more to even the story than I've let on yet. But I just want to hear what you thought.
Yeah, I was definitely confused when I saw the first few videos coming out about it. And I think like the greater conversation to be had is when we start talking about the conspiracy theorists. Theories is conspiracy versus incompetency. And you put out an Instagram video right after it happened that kind of touched on this. But there's so many things wrong with how the Secret Service reacted to an active shooter that it's really easy to start thinking in the conspiracy mindset when your whole life you've been told the Secret Service is the best of the best in the entire world. And then you have instance after instance of active shooters and they just have absolutely no idea what to do. And you would even think, if nothing else, you would think, even if they don't know how to handle the situation, you would think covering the president, shielding the president is the first thing that is supposed to happen. And during the last assassination attempt, they took too long to do that. And they let him up for a fight photo.
Fight shot, yeah.
Which was, unbelievably incompetent and stupid. But like, at least then we're talking about like a 10-second delay for when they should have realistically been covering him. This was the first full minute where people were running around and there was only one dude standing 5 feet in front of that went and stood 5 feet in front of Trump. Nobody else surrounded him on any angle. So that part made no sense to me about, like, if you thought there was any chance there was an active shooter, how are you not immediately surrounding the president who's front and center on stage? That was the weirdest part to me, but I think I'm leaning towards incompetence over conspiracy. But I guess that was my first takeaway, was just like, wow, the Secret Service are much worse at their jobs than we ever thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. And frankly, when I first heard this news, I'm not going to lie, my first thought was, oh, this is fake. Like, this is fake. Like, this is staged, So I have no judgment. Unlike many conspiracy theories, this one, I mean, it's one of those ones that if it comes out that it was staged at any point in the future, I will be not shocked at all. Like this, I feel like it's more justified than basically anything that we've seen, like, being staged, even more than the first one, which I think, is suspicious. The whole fight assassination attempt. I feel like if you think that's staged, I wouldn't really judge you either. The royal you. I don't think it was necessarily, but I, again, wouldn't be surprised. This one even feels more likely to be staged, frankly, than the other one. But I don't know. And one of the other things, there's so much to say here. Okay. So, one, the Secret Service point is so true. I do think the FBI, specifically Kash Patel, is getting a little off the hook here, in the sense that while they do facilitate under different departments, Homeland Security and Department of Justice, the FBI should be on top of domestic terrorism and terrorist threats. And it is an active war currently. And I think that is not getting emphasized enough, that the president, the vice president, the secretary of state, we're all in the same room during a literal war with the FBI head. And shouldn't the FBI have some intel on what's going on? Because it's twofold. The Secret Service's job is to defend and protect and like make sure they have the security of the event, okay? But the FBI's job is to tell them if there are threats and like what to look for and what's going on. And I don't know. It's hard to know. When your head of domestic terrorism watch is literally a 22-year-old intern, Thomas Fugati, which is true, I don't know what to believe. So I do think that either option is pretty humiliating. I don't know what's more embarrassing, either it being fake or them being that incompetent, because they both make me feel horrible. It's either one or the other, right?
And to drive the point about the incompetency, the FBI, the Secret Service, the president, the vice president are all in a room on a stage in a hotel that's completely unsecured. So the shooter had walked in only one day before with a luggage with 2 guns in it and a knife, and just checked in like any guy in any hotel in the world would be checking in. There was no extra security. So I get that they had a metal detector to get into the actual room, but still,
yeah,
you're in a giant hotel with hundreds, if not thousands, of strangers that apparently there was no security, no background checks, nothing. So all he did was take the elevator downstairs.
Yeah, no, there's no risk at all.
That's all the guy did.
And he, in his manifesto, which we will, if you want to even call it that, we'll get to, said in his thing, I can't believe how easy this is. He literally wrote that out. One of the MAGA talking points that I got in the commentary. So when I posted that reel that you were referring to earlier, like I got, obviously, the MAGA bots came out in full force per usual. And one of them that I see is definitely a talking point is, well, he never got in the room with them. They actually did a good job. He's just in the lobby. Anyone could be in the lobby. It's not their fault. And I want them to really think about that. Do you really think that's secure? Like, really? Like that? Like, I don't think the point is that he didn't get into the room. That's ridiculous.
Also, he tripped.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. Like
they didn't even shoot him. He allegedly shot one bullet, which hit, like you said, the plate of a Secret Service agent, then started running into the room when he hit his knee on the side of the metal detector and fell to the ground.
Exactly.
So it's like they didn't even stop the guy. The guy stopped himself.
It should be in context too, right? I feel like if this was one example and there were hundreds, everything leading up to this point has been the FBI and the Secret Service just boom, 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 machines, and this is just an outlier, then you could say, it still is unacceptable. I really think the active war thing is not getting talked about enough because it shows, I think, a lot to do with our culture's ignorance on conflict. We don't even really associate with them. We're so detached from international conflicts that we couldn't even fathom an idea of someone doing something domestically. But that's so ridiculous, given the fact that not only could it have been a terrorist attack, but a literal attack, a cyber attack. And there's different types of attacks that can happen. Just because they can't send a cruiser missile from Iran doesn't mean that there aren't other ways. And the fact that they gathered all of the most important politicians into one room, except Chuck Grassley, the 92-year-old senator who was intentionally not invited, as he would have been one of the people in command if anything happened to them, which maybe not a good sign to leave it to a 90-year-old. It seems like a mistake. But frankly, we're kind of burying the lead a little bit in the sense that maybe the thing that makes it feel like a conspiracy theory the most is the immediate messaging of the ballroom within hours. And not only was it instantly, it was coordinated. They all had the same talking points right off the jump. And I feel like that is almost the worst part. Because just for those who don't know, the ballroom, which, by the way, they've already demoed the East Wing. So there's just a destroyed East Wing now in the White House that they've been talking about, which, by the way, they've been promising would be funded by Trump's buddies, private funding, which is apparently not happening, just got sued, right, for not filing their permits. So there's a whole lawsuit going on. That had just happened a few days beforehand. And literally, like, after that, they've now put a thing saying, oh, we actually should use taxpayers' money. This is why it should be a national security issue. Oh my God, we need a secure place. And now they want $400 million of taxpayer money. Lindsey Graham saying he's going to introduce bills. They're all saying, oh, we love the ballroom. Rand Paul said he loved the ballroom. I thought he was a hero. Yeah, give me a break. You know, it does feel like they tried to use it as an excuse to justify the ballroom. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even wait, like you said, he didn't even wait for it to calm down to then say, like, hey, by the way, this, could have been prevented. He said it right after. Um, it doesn't help that that during the shooting, during the evacuation, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Dan Scavino, unsuccessfully attempted to start a USA chant among the people still in the room too. So they were, and you've probably seen the Dana White interview where he said that was fucking awesome, talking about he was in the room. So like those guys acting like they just it was just a little like fun exercise is also strange. But yeah, immediately using it to justify the ballroom is pretty shameless.
Yeah, I think it's sad that we can't tell the difference if it's fake or not. I genuinely can't tell. I also agree that if I had to put my money on it, I would bet incompetence, just because I tend to not lean towards conspiracy theories being true because I don't think people are organized enough. And I just feel typically, like you've said before, the number of people needed to keep things secret are just usually too high to make conspiracies actually work. That being said, I feel like this one, I don't know, man. This could be fake. I'm going to give it a definitely possible on the stamp. Fake. I don't know. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
All right. I don't think we're crazy. I think, I mean, they started selling the ballroom immediately after. It just seems so fake.
Trump said he tried to go back to dinner, but the Secret Service wouldn't let him.
Yeah, and that was also crazy. Also,
the one guy continuing to eat dinner.
Well, also all of them abandoning their wives. Did you see? There was a great clip of RFK running away from Cheryl Hines, and someone edited the Curb theme music over it. And she's just, yeah, it's just a joke. No matter what, I feel like it made me feel even less. It's the same thing we've talked about with the Iran war, where I feel even less confident in all of America's stuff, the U.S.'s stuff in general, like the military, the defense. All of this I feel less safe. Another example of something that makes me feel less safe. So after the attack, the Trump and the GOP and all these guys, they went on their typical tour that they did when the Charlie Kirk assassination happened, saying that the reason why this is happening is the Democrats, their rhetoric, not, and it's just, there are so many examples of that being hypocritical with, Trump threatening genocide on Easter, calling the Democrats vermin, the evil within and stuff like that, that it's almost impossible to show the hypocrisy because there's just hundreds of examples of Trump being more dramatic, that I actually thought it maybe would be interesting to show a moment of Pete Hegseth being hypocritical. Not because I think Pete Hegseth is more important than Trump, obviously the president matters, but I just think I just wanted to show it because we're so numb to this, the way they talk about Democrats and the people in the country that vote left, that I think sometimes like these things just don't get media coverage. So this week, Pete Hegseth was at Congress justifying and testifying why they need a $1.5 trillion for the defense budget. And in his opening statements, he said this, and I just wanted to show it because I just think that, again, it's one of those things that not only shows their hypocrisy, it just shows how numb we've gotten to how horrible they are in the rhetoric that they have, So here we go. Here's this clip. Let's play.
Unlike other presidents, has had the courage to ensure Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, and he's ironclad in that. We have the best negotiator in the world driving that deal. The biggest challenge, the biggest adversary we face at this point are the reckless, feckless, and defeatist words of congressional Democrats and some Republicans. 2 months in, I remind you, 2 months in to a conflict. Lest I remind you, and my generation understands how long we were in Iraq, how long we were in Afghanistan, how long we were in Vietnam. 2 months in.
All losing wars, by the way. The ones he justified as good examples. But in that quote, I mean, if you just take this at face value, which it should be, the Secretary of Defense said the biggest threat to this country isn't the country we are in active war with, that apparently is such a threat that we had to go to war with them, unprompted. It's actually the Democrats. And, it's easy to laugh off. I'm laughing as it's so stupid, but it's one of those things that these positions should matter and these comments should matter. I don't know. What did you think seeing that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, it's kind of like it's tiring to make the same argument over and over. But you hear it from the right every time this happens. What do you expect when liberals call Trump a fascist all day, or like liberals call for killing Trump all day, even though nobody does that? And there's only like so many times you can point out the hypocrisy. Like what I've said to somebody talking about Charlie Kirk is just like, show me one example of an elected Democrat in a high position that celebrated Charlie Kirk's death. And
there's none.
No,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
There's zero.
Yeah, of course.
There's zero.
Yeah,
examples.
exactly.
But then it's like, show me
Exactly.
an example of Trump saying some shooter is a liberal trans illegal immigrant. His jumps to conclusions and shaming other people happens so quick. He, at every possible opportunity, he escalates the language so much, more than any other politician I've ever seen.
More than basically any public figure, effectively, ever. You
Right.
know? When Robert Mueller died, he said, quote, "Good, I'm glad he's dead." That's what are we talking about here?
Right.
I mean, it's not even worth our breath, frankly. I mean, it's just, the reason why I show the clip isn't that, it's just like, dude, that happened this week, and no one gives a fuck. And I think it's so weird that that's true. And it just shows you how Trump has just deranged this country in a weird way. Not in the way they say, in like a really awful other way.
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of conservatives are criticizing Jimmy Kimmel because he made a joke like a week before the shooting where he said some joke along the lines of like Melania Trump is looking like an expectant widow. Yeah, she's dating an 80-year-old who's losing his mind on national TV. The joke is that he's an old man at the end of his life who shouldn't be president. Just like
Exactly.
the millions of jokes they made about Joe Biden's age and him being about to die. It's like, did you guys forget that was the entirety of the last administration was jokes about how old and close to death this guy is? Like,
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, and it's just years and years of these comedians saying the left is censoring us. We can't joke. The amount of stand-up specials I've had to watch with a comedian's first line being, "I'm just kidding around, don't cancel me." I've had to hear that so long. And all these guys do is whine and complain about every joke. The GOP are such babies. I'm so sorry. They're all babies. All they do is whine and whine and whine. And it's just so embarrassing. They're literally, they're like that Batman line. They've lived long enough to become the villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like what have they become? It's so cowardly and that's all they do is whine. It's so Jimmy Kimmel, and it's so annoying. I like the first time you try to get Jimmy Kimmel fired, Jimmy Kimmel sucks. I'm not trying to say Jimmy Kimmel is some comedic maverick. It's just like, this is your guy you're targeting. It's just because Trump watches daytime television. That's the only reason why it happens. Apparently, he doesn't have other premium channels. He only has the, channels 1 through 10.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They've gotten so soft. Anything that remotely touches Trump or is about Trump, they're the most politically correct people on the planet. They're constantly they're so censoring of themselves and other people when it's mildly critical of something Trump does. Comedians haven't been making harsh enough jokes about Trump. That's the reality. They've been too soft.
They've been too nice. All they do is impersonate his voice, which is funny.
Right.
But, like, it's not. They should be really ripping him up like a new one. He's in humiliation. And, okay, I think this is worth the topic. Like, dude, literally like a month ago, Trump posted on his account a video of Obama and freaking Michelle as apes. He photoshopped their head on gorillas. The left goes, that's offensive. That's racist. And people go, liberal tears. You guys are such babies.
Right.
Jimmy Kimmel makes a joke saying, Melania, you're so beautiful. You have the glow of an expectant widow. And they say he needs to be pulled from the air and he's inciting violence. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Right. It's so ridiculous.
One is like the most horribly racist caricature you could possibly imagine in the year 2026 that looks like it's from the year 1915. And then one is like a joke that would be on like 2.5 Men. Like a joke that would be on a PG-rated family sitcom.
On Big Bang Theory or on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Like Nick at Night. Nick at Night level offensiveness.
And they're like, how dare he?
Oh, dude, Trump
what do you expect? You're gonna get people shooting at Trump when you got Jimmy Kimmel out there saying stuff like that.
Trump says that the Pope is weak on crime and it posts himself as literal Jesus. They go, he's just making jokes. He's just a funny guy. He's got a great sense of humor. Jimmy Kimmel goes, Melania, your husband's old and is going to die soon. And they go, whoa, fire them all. They all should lose their jobs. Remember when J.D. Vance went on the Charlie Kirk live stream and said, and you should be doxing people that are saying jokes?
Yeah.
The vice president of the United States. It also, one thing that I think is leading to the conspiracy theory of the whole shooting thing is that it does feel like a part of a bag of tricks to try to distract people from how horrible he's doing. In a little bit. They're putting people on the moon. They're starting wars. They're faking assassination attempts. It's almost like they're going down the checklist of what can we do that will make Trump look cool. And they saw how much the fight one helped him during the campaign. So they're like, why don't we run that back? It seems like that's the room. Like someone's got a whiteboard and they're just trying to go through shit to figure it out. It kind of has that feel. Have we tried a moon landing yet? Like, all right, throw them on the moon. Like it does reek of that a little bit. Obviously, I'm just talking out of my ass, but like, doesn't it kind of feel like that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is a joke. This country is so silly. Speaking of the Iranian war, so big news this week. So we've talked about on the show a bunch of times about these war power resolutions that have failed every time. Congress continually saying we don't want to have any rights. Basically, we don't want the power the Constitution gives us because we love our Trump daddy so much. And again, so one of those things, one of the rules of that is that if the conflict extends past 60 days, they have to approve it. Like they have to come to Congress and say, this is what we're doing. You need to vote yes. For some reason, there's a difference between the first 60 days and the second 60, the future, not second, just after that. The reason obviously is that, conflicts like one attack, which, it'd be harder in case of quick decisions. It's the constant balance of executive orders and stuff like that. But one of the things is that they've been not only pushing it against this 60-day requirement, saying we shouldn't have to follow it. They're also saying because a ceasefire is active, that means they don't have to continue. And the rhetoric with Iran has changed every day. It's done. We're over. Like a couple days ago, he said it was done. Then he says we're going to, suffer them. Like, what did he say? Stuff them like a stuffed pig or something like that. He said this week, some crazy line. It's hard to know what the hell is going on with Iran other than they seemingly are not going to follow the law again.
Yeah, I think Trump wants it out of the news. Trump's already, I think, frustrated by it. And he succeeded in some senses at getting it out of the news with the other stuff we've been talking about.
The assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah. That song and dance.
But yeah, I mean, we're like 2 months in. What has really changed since the first week?
Nothing. We've gone back and forth. Well, I know it's changed. Gas prices have tripled and
right.
The economy's worse. And Iran, the deal that Iran has is much better than the one that they were negotiating beforehand.
Right. The deal that is being debated today, according to Iran, it's a 14-point plan that the U.S. just replied to yesterday, right?
And they keep changing these fucking points. Right. 10 point, 12 point. Anyway, continue.
Trump wants to have the most points. He's just going to add numbers to it.
They keep throwing points on. It drives me nuts.
But as of yesterday, Iran said, we sent a 14-piece plan via Pakistan to the U.S., and the U.S. replied today, so we're reviewing it. But our 14-point plan exclusively focuses on ending the war and contains no reference related to nuclear capabilities.
It was like the biggest hawk of shit. Again, someone said this, I think it was Pete Buttigieg said this, that they haven't had to eat enough sin about the lies last year about we've totally decimated their nuclear facilities, about how big of a lie that is, and how it's almost as bad as the weapons of mass destruction with Iraq and Afghanistan, like stuff like that, like, because it was just total BS, or this one's total BS. Like, they haven't had to justify that yet. They keep going like, the past is in the past. Don't you love me now? Like, they keep trying to use that logic, and I feel like, why is that true?
Yeah, I think the lie is totally just as bad as the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I just don't think the consequences haven't been as bad because we've been in there for 2 months and not 12 years, right? So, like, I'm not saying that it's going to end up being as bad overall. If this war is as bad as Iraq, it's a complete disaster. If we're talking about, hundreds of thousands of people dying.
But from a cost point of view, it might get there, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of like a flat out lie, obviously Dick Cheney and Powell and the people pushing for the war in 2002 and 2003, their whole thing was, we're confident there are weapons of mass destruction, but we don't really know for sure. But we're very confident. And they convinced people that there was enough science that we should go in, even though there was really never anything concrete. And that was the lie. That to me is slightly less bad than saying we took out a large country's entire nuclear capabilities and just completely making it up that you did that.
Yeah.
You actually didn't do anything. They're stronger than they've ever been. And actually, a year later, we're going to have to launch a full-on invasion because of how little we did then.
Or the almost equally possible, but maybe even worse, they did destroy most of it. And they made that up that it was still there to justify this just because Netanyahu wanted a regime change or something like that. I don't know what to believe. I just know one of them is a lie. One of them is a lie, one way or the other. Both can't be true. So whatever. Just today, this is breaking news, I guess. Breaking. Do we have that? We don't have that sound for. That doesn't really pack the same punch. Drum rolls. Vessel struck. No, that's used to be good news. So they're calling this thing called Project Freedom, which is the U.S. vessels are escorting other vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Apparently, 2 missiles hit a U.S. Navy vessel just now. not great. that could cause Trump to say something horrible. Sure, he'll threaten genocide again, which again is just a casual Monday for this guy.
Right.
60 chess. So speaking of what you were talking about with the comparing it to Iraq and Afghanistan, so that war apparently, cost over $1 trillion. The United States, great investment. No way we could ever do universal health care. We just don't have the money. But the other one, the Pentagon is saying we've already spent $25 billion on Iraq. Blumenthal says it's actually close to double that, more $50 billion. We're only 2 months in. There's no end in sight, in my opinion. This is going to be $100-200 billion, I feel like, at the minimum, because these numbers are probably actually closer to that in reality. I don't think it's out of control. I mean, Harvard estimates that it will get to $1 trillion. Sounds believable to me.
I think so. I think if it lasts a couple years, it'll get to $1 trillion. Like, people can't be thinking in 2003 terms of like it cost that war cost $1 trillion over 10 years at a totally different time with inflation and totally different time with technology and how much these things cost. So like, I don't think it would take 5 years to reach $1 trillion in this war.
I don't even think it would take I think maybe a year and a half. Right. I don't think people understand, to your point, how much more expensive vessel navigation is, and just when you're actually just the boats, like rebuilding these vessels and just fixing these ships up and having them out at sea all the time. It's just a very expensive operation. And because of the Strait of Hormuz drama, this has just been a lot more naval than conflicts of recent history have been. So, yeah. And to that point, and this is just pettiness, and this is, again, another huge news update. So Germany's leadership has criticized this war, so has Spain's, so has Italy's. And just the other day, the Pentagon has confirmed that they've withdrawn 5,000 troops from Germany, or they're going to over the next year. This is so bad. I just want to emphasize how terrible this is. Can I tell you my other conspiracy theory that I want to float to you? Dude, is Trump just a Putin asset totally? Because if you think about what he's done, it's so perfect for Russia, it's not even funny. He's tanked the U.S.'s reputation. He's done everything in his power to weaken us on the global stage, both soft power-wise and hard power-wise. Trump, that is. But now he's threatening NATO and the destruction of the ties between Europe and the United States more than ever before, to the point where he was threatening Greenland. You know what I'm saying? And now he's withdrawing troops from Europe. I feel like every single thing Trump does is in the benefit, all the crypto stuff is in the benefit of Russia. I mean, again, obviously I'm just talking on my ass here a little bit, but it just, I don't know. To me, it feels like every single thing is just perfect for Russia.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
I mean, they reprimanded the leader of Ukraine for not wearing a suit in the Oval Office at a time where their country's under constant attack from a superpower. It's
just crazy.
He really couldn't be doing more for Putin without it being fully
as obvious as possible.
Yeah, as obvious as possible.
Russia.
Yeah. Last episode, we talked about how Russian oil revenues have doubled since the start of Iran, and Russia was bleeding money from this war. So it's probably the best thing that could have happened.
Definitely. They removed the sanctions for Russia.
Right.
Specifically giving Russia an aid.
Right.
But also, if they're dismantling NATO as we speak, by doing all of these things, they're effectively dismantling it. And if they do that, Russia wins. Right? There's basically no other way to shake it. I feel like that's why all of this is happening the way it is, and I mean, the only thing that has been preventing further war has been NATO, I feel like this is getting undersold big time.
Yeah, for sure. And it's almost like if Russia invaded another European country, I can see Trump almost being happy about it because he'd be like, see, what did I tell you? These countries should have their own defense and their own military. And they
Yeah.
should, you know what I mean? Like if they invaded Finland or Norway, I can totally see Trump not wanting to help it.
How do you put it this way? They've done everything in their power. One of the other moves too we've talked about was when they moved the Navy ships from Asia and brought them to Iran, like that area, reducing the military presence in the Pacific for this conflict. Another kind of real pass for China. Obviously, Russia's one of their bigger allies. I just don't see a world, coupled with his huge obsession with Putin, coupled with the Russian interference in the elections that have been, validated. I don't know what else you can say. Either he just loves Putin and that's why he's willing to help him out as much as possible, or there's something even more odd going on. I don't think that's crazy. I don't know. Again, on the conspiracy believability chart, that seems higher than not, even though it's obviously fiction currently. Like, it's technically fiction.
Yeah. At the bare minimum, Trump seems to put the interests of Putin and Netanyahu ahead of America, which really goes against America first.
Yeah, definitely.
Putting two awful authoritarians from other countries ahead of your own people. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely puts them over Europe or any ally.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for sure. He was more outwardly pro-Putin than last year than he's been so far. I think the PR of that hasn't gone over well.
Right, exactly.
But remember, Hillary called him Putin's puppet during the 2016 debates, and he got really upset about that. But, I mean, that's being proven to be true.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I don't know how there's any way you could argue it. Anyway, it just seems like they're cackling over there in the Kremlin. Fair play. fair play to them as they destroy Western civilization. Another huge piece of news that happened this week, potentially the one that may have been in listeners' social media feeds the most, just because, especially if you're liberal leaning, because I feel like this is something that has gone pretty viral, was the Supreme Court gutting the Voting Rights Act, Section 2. And for those who don't know what that is, it is the thing that says that when states are drawing political districts, so you've been hearing a lot of that in the news with the gerrymandering stuff, Texas, Virginia, California, Missouri, stuff like that, they are no longer allowed to consider race when drawing the maps. Now, these pieces of this law were put in to address segregation and racism and all the horrible things that are happening in this country. People are saying, this particular voting rights advocates are saying, this is a disaster. And already different states are now redrawing their maps, basically trying to squeeze out people of color's representation. It's pretty horrible for voting rights and civil rights. I don't know if I'm capturing it well enough, but it is a pretty big deal, obviously.
Yeah, and I do think it's kind of like a bit confusing because it's like the Civil Rights Act mixed with modern gerrymandering legal debates and how those all like intertwine. But I think you summed it up well. I think like the reason for this law, and it's actually 1982 amendment to the 65 Civil Rights Act that they just struck down. But the reason is because with the way that gerrymandering was allowed, even with the Civil Rights Act originally, states, obviously led by white people, they could gerrymander their districts. So let's say their population was 50% white and 50% black in the state. They could gerrymander the district so there's no majority black. So you would think you would get 50-50 representation if they were drawn up randomly, but obviously random is not what gerrymandering is. Gerrymandering is like intentionally drawing them up to exclude or include certain people. And so like the 1982 amendment said that, like, you can't do that. Like, you have to, if there's a certain amount of people of a certain race, like, you have to, like, it's reasonable for them to have at least one district where they would be represented. Basically. So it's not like doing that heavy-handed, but it's basically saying, like, it's to prevent racist gerrymandering to exclude all non-white people, So it's like,
Exactly.
yeah, and that's basically what the Supreme Court just struck down. So it's obviously not good on the race side of it. And it's also terrible on the side of, like, this is just escalating the gerrymander debate and back and forth to a whole new level. So, like, this whole war of Texas versus California, everyone shamelessly gerrymandering like they never were before. They used to try to hide it. Now it's all just in the open, and it's all just Dems versus Republicans, like, trying to do it the most if they control the state. So the whole thing's a mess. Like, honestly, we need some sort of constitutional amendment to just prohibit all gerrymandering and, like, make it so it's some sort of randomized algorithm that can draw up these maps and then they're approved or whatever. But because it seems like the next few years, it's, like, only getting worse.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one of those things that it is probably worth noting that Texas, at the beck and call of Trump, was what really started this wave of insanity because, like you said, typically they happen on decade, more in the background. Always bad, but more, rhythmic in terms of when and how they pop up. And obviously with Trump begging for House votes because he is a scumbag who doesn't want to have these elections, frankly, then that this has all happened. And it's interesting to see the Democrats fight fire with fire, I guess. I mean, obviously they're not comparable to Texas because Texas did it without a vote, whereas in California and Virginia's case, they put it up to a vote and the people voted to redraw the maps, whereas in Texas, the government just did it by itself, which is, I mean, pretty self-evident which one is more democratic than the other. But I don't know. I just, this is all leading to a lot of drama about these midterms. I'm starting to think that this is almost becoming inevitable based off of how many lies there are, how much lying there's going on about voter fraud and the maps. And it just seems to be like such a talking point. I just can't imagine a world where Trump accepts anything with these elections. I just think, and I think the Republicans will go along with him if they lose because they're absolute babies who are spineless and who will do whatever Trump wants.
Yeah, for sure. It's laying the groundwork to just dispute election results in a way that, like, we haven't really seen before, because 2020 they mostly did that after the fact,
100%, yeah.
And we know how those court cases all turned out for them, but, like,
Yeah,
now
they were lying.
yeah,
Exactly.
now, like, this is all laying the groundwork legally through court rulings. They're pushing it to see what they can get away with and what the courts will allow, but also, like, they're seeing what they can get away with for what their voters will put up with. And right now, it seems like voters on both sides are willing to just fight fire with fire, and that means continuing to escalate.
100%. And he's also starting to tweet about how he thinks, now that this has changed, we should give them time to redraw the maps because, the bureaucracy will take too long. He's going to say this more. I guarantee it. They're going to try to delay the elections for sure. I'm starting to get really, really concerned, but hopefully, people don't sit idly by as their freedom gets stripped from their hands because of their cult obsession to Trump. A bit of good news that I think absolutely deserves the cheering soundboard Congratulations to Mr. Graham Platner. He defeated Janet Mills in the primary for the Maine Senate election. So Graham, Mr. Platner, will be the Democratic representative. He'll be going against Susan Collins, a long-time coward. No, just a long-time senator of very little moral value. Just don't know what else to say. She's been pretty terrible. One thing that, we should mention, obviously, is that there was drama with Platner a few months ago because he had an apparent Nazi tattoo on his body that he has now covered up. He said he didn't know it. We don't know. We're going to take him at his word. Maybe that's stupid. I don't care. I like him. There's nothing else in his behavior that would suggest that he feels that way. So I don't know why that would be true. He'd be an odd person to... It doesn't really match the rest of his views and beliefs. Anyway, I'm pretty excited about him. He's one of the kind of Bernie acolytes that we've seen emerge this midterm cycle, along with Zoran, around with James Tallarico, Dr. Abdul in Michigan is one of them, and a couple of others. These kind of no taking money from super PAC type folks. That's good to me. And I one thing that I thought is interesting, though, is that Platner outraised Janet Mills almost by twice as much. And again, I think even if Platner doesn't win to Susan Collins, and same with Tallarico if he doesn't win, I think one thing that I want people to remember is that clearly you don't need to take PAC money for campaign financing if your campaign is good enough. These people clearly can get enough money if they actually motivate their base. So I'm really sick of people perpetuating that they have no choice, their hands are tied kind of stuff. Like, we would love to not take billionaire money, but what are we going to do? Don't do it. You can get money by actually having a spine and having values. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. One, I think Plattner's a great candidate. His how he talks is pretty funny to me. It does remind me of Jesse Ventura a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A very, very deep voice, masculine, very matter of fact way, and it's us against the billionaire class. And
Yep.
for that reason, I am asking for one donation of 20.
Nothing makes me more sad than seeing Chuck Schumer flopping and flailing on Capitol Hill. I've been in the water for years. He's just so good.
And we're the target demographic, but every time I go on, there's an ad for him going, "Hey, Graham Platner here, marine and oyster farmer."
And I love it. I love it. I love that guy. I want more guys like that. No, it's funny. We constantly whine. I constantly whine that we don't have enough tough guy Democrats. He's one.
Totally.
I like that.
Totally. He was asked, "How do you differ from Zoran Mamdani?" And he said, "My gun safe looks different than his."
Oh,
that was a pretty funny line.
That's good. I like him, and frankly, again, this is the type of stuff that makes me feel more positive. It's the Platners, it's the Tallaricos, it's the Zorans. It's showing that the appetite for the Bernie platform is larger than just Bernie. What Bernie represented of a more progressive, liberal-leaning economic populist type rhetoric, that works. And that people, more than anything, just don't want people taking money from rich people. That's it. If you can prove you're not taking PAC money, especially APAC money, bam. That's the bipartisan link, I think. More than anything. I really think if you can just not take PAC money, you have now entered the good graces of most people who are paying attention, and anyone who's actually open-minded to their views, which again isn't everybody, I think you actually have a shot at least at convincing them. I don't think you can really do that anymore if you take PAC money. I think people immediately just go, "You're a scumbag."
Right, exactly. And yeah, and everyone wants an anti-politician, anti-establishment politician. Everyone on both sides. It's the Democrats' job to reclaim that and be we're the ones fighting what billionaires and massive corporations want. because that's the disconnect right now, right? Is that there's a lot of voters that think there's zero difference between the Democrats and Republicans in terms of how much they're bought out by corporations and how much they don't care about people, right? And so then they end up voting on some specific issue like guns or abortion or some culture war thing because they just think they're all full of shit, so I might as well vote for the one on this other issue. Like, I think Platner's really good at reminding people, hey, I'm this rural working class guy, and I'm against these people for these reasons. But, like, I don't know, he's just much better at sending that message, I feel like, to the swing voters in Maine than Democrats typically are.
Because he
I
doesn't
think,
pay
like,
PAC money. That's it. I
right.
feel like it has to be, because
It's partially that. It's partially the clothes, which I hate to admit.
yeah,
and
he looks
and
good.
it's
Yeah,
partially the farmer and the Marine and the voice. Like it's everything with him, right? Because Zoran really is different than him. Political views wise, they're not that different, but actual personality, they're totally different, right? Zoran is like this super educated, very charismatic, always in a suit,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm.
very polished. And Platner is like the complete opposite of that. But
Well,
I'm
and then you have
hoping he wins
Tallarico
by
too,
a lot.
who is
Right,
like
who's
this
completely different too.
preacher,
Yeah.
like a literal Presbyterian preacher, like, yeah, but I think that especially it's one of the interesting consequences of this, Gaza and Israel and stuff like that, is that AIPAC became a thing people started thinking about. And I think not just not wanting to take money from AIPAC, which I think is a big topic for a lot of people, but I think just PAC. I think people learned about PACs via their hatred of AIPAC. So I think they started like connecting the dots more. Obviously, Bernie has been going on about Citizens United and stuff like that since he entered the public eye, since it happened, frankly, and even beforehand, like not with Citizens United, but just money in politics. But I feel like nowadays we're starting to get a real literacy, at least in people who follow politics, about PACs, just about what they are, money in and putting a little bit more language behind a feeling of like money in politics. Like they're starting to slightly understand the mechanism a little bit more. So I think that question is coming up a lot more often just because of AIPAC, frankly. But that's good because it's making people have a stance and it's making you have an opinion, And it's hard to not be hypocritical. And it's hard to use the Lance Armstrong argument of, well, they're all on steroids, so I had no choice. That's the PAC argument. They're all doing it, so I have no choice, When these
Right.
guys keep getting more money not doing it. I don't know. I hope that this sticks. I worry it won't, but I hope that it sticks as a learning point that I don't know if you listened last Wednesday. I had Lee on. It was we had recorded it the week before, but I had Lee on the show, and I thought one of the best points Lee made, which is the one that I can't stop thinking about, frankly, is that, and it's obvious, but it's just something that you think about. Like, if you tell your own voters you don't care about what they think, what do you expect? And they keep telling you, we want this. And you guys keep going, no, you don't. You're such a baby. And I just,
Right.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that's actually what you think or not, or if you think they're being dramatic, or you think they're overblowing it. It doesn't really matter if that's what your base cares about. You should do what your base wants. It's really condescending to not listen to your own freaking base.
Yeah. 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Just on that alone.
Right. And I mean, the argument is always like they're all doing it. I think of like Hillary as really being the poster person for that, just because Bernie was the closest candidate to get to the presidency in 2016 that wasn't taking the money. And so there was a lot of that conversation back then. And yeah, Hillary was just like, how could we not? We have no chance in the general election if we don't take it. But Bernie, by doing that well before the general and since then, I think proved that you don't need it. And like, obviously it's a snowballing effect too, because that's what like Bernie taught us with his whole like $27 average donation thing. It's like,
yeah,
once so many people learn that you don't take super PAC money, there's more people willing to donate to you.
100%. Totally. And it just makes you a lot more credible. Even if you're a good candidate or not, it just makes you feel not like you're bought. And people just are sick of the concept of being bought, even if it's not fairly attributed, like even if it's fake, even if you take money and you're actually still doing a pretty honest job, it's hard to untie them because of what people know can be true. To that point, I thought this was really interesting. So Joe Manchin, former West Virginia senator,
I saw this.
Yeah, endorsed Susan Collins, calling her the soul of America. And I gotta tell you, I bet you deep down, Schumer and them want to endorse Collins.
Yeah.
If you gave them some
so.
truth serum. What do you think about that? Do you think I'm being dramatic?
No, I don't think it's dramatic. I mean, Joe Manchin is just he's such a hack. Like he is.
He's such an asshole.
There's never been an issue that he hasn't been in the center on. There's not one issue in the entire world where he's like, I'm actually really passionate about being pro-choice. Like, no. It's like, maybe in the case of emergencies, abortion should be allowed. Like every single possible issue on the planet, he finds a way to be conservative, but just slightly less conservative than most Republicans.
Yeah, exactly.
But way more conservative than the Democratic Party. I thought that was so funny that he's like, the Senate will lose its soul if they lose Susan Collins.
Yeah, the soul of America.
The senator with no spine, she's the soul.
The senator who vowed to only serve 2 terms and has now been in office for like 40 years. I mean, like, she's such a... It reminds me of Bill Clinton endorsing Cuomo. Or, frankly, Schumer endorsing Janet Mills to an extent, where the old guard, the very old guard, because they are old men, really, really doesn't want to let their boys down, or in this case, their ladies down. I don't know. I'm happy for Graham. I'm rooting for Graham. Yeah, I want him to win. So we don't talk about the approval rating of Trump that often because it's fairly meaningless. and frankly, it hasn't moved that much in the last year and a half. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because I'm wondering how much does it matter. It is worth saying, though, Trump's approval rating is now 37%, apparently, which isn't that much lower than it's been. But his disapproval rating, which is actually something that people don't talk about because a lot of times it's like, do you approve, do you disapprove, or do you not care, or no opinion? And usually the no opinion is big enough that it kind of waters it down. It's actually the worst he's ever had in either term. 62% disapprove right now. And again, I don't think that really matters in the sense that Republicans still love him. I mean, 85% of Republicans still approve of him. Unbelievable, given what we know. It's just unbelievable how partisan they've become. But I do think it matters when you take it at face value with the quotes that he's saying. So this week he said, we should win the midterm by itself, but unfortunately doesn't work that way. So it's effectively like he's, conceding the midterms in his own words, which again points to why he so badly wants to rig the maps and just cancel the election, I think. But when do you think the Republicans start running away? Because he is so unpopular. Or do you think they die with him this term? Like, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be a point where they start running?
Maybe, but after the midterms for sure.
So you think they'll ride this?
Yeah, they're definitely in it for they're way too afraid of Trump's wrath if they get out of line, I think, during the midterms. Did you hear what Trump was asked to endorse Susan Collins, and he said something like, yeah, maybe I'll get to that. She's fine. like I think the Republicans are way too attached to him to run away from him before November. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Some will probably go, especially as health insurance costs keep going up. And they've been trying to pass this amendment to the One Big Beautiful Bill to change the name to the Working Families Act. I don't know if you've seen this. They keep calling the Big Beautiful Bill the Working Families Act. I don't know who started doing this, but this they just started referring to that as a way to, I don't know, like No Child Left Behind branding,
Right.
but yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. I think they think that people will be, okay with losing their health care, their premiums going up 300% or whatnot. But I don't know. I could see a world where come September and gas prices are still very high, and if this Iran stuff is still kicking around and he's still tweeting about I'm Jesus and I'm going to genocide Iranian people, I don't know, maybe. You never know with these people. I mean, in some ways, Congress is just such a disaster. It is good that they now have ended the shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, the longest shutdown in history, right? 75 days. It's embarrassing. They voted to basically reopen everything other than ICE and Border Patrol, the funding. They've just kept that as it was, which is record high. Good to see the Democrats holding the line on something. Little victories, we'll take it. They said we aren't going to fund ICE unless they do X, Y, and Z, and they didn't. So, good. We're happy to see some level of spine. The fight isn't over, but good to see that. What I do think is interesting is that more than 1,000 TSA agents quit during the shutdown. Rightfully so. They weren't getting paid. I do not blame them. The World Cup is happening any day now. I feel like that's maybe a problem.
Yeah, especially since it takes 4 to 6 months to train them, they said.
Yeah.
We're 1 month away.
Feel like we could be in trouble. I don't like that. Some other interesting news stories that are both interesting and sad. There's a lot of drama around mifepristone. How do you say it? Mifepristone, the abortion pill. Do you know how to say that? I don't know.
I'm not.
I'm pulling a major trouble.
Mifepristone.
Remember he goes acetaminophen. That's me with this. I don't know. My bad. I'm also not the president, so I think I'm okay. They want to basically remove the mail, that you can't get it via mail or telehealth, that you have to go in person. And yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, that's a big problem for people. I mean, medication abortion, so like via pill, is 2/3 of all U.S. abortions. So, restricting this will, of course, affect that. Now we'll have the Supreme Court go to it. That's what this is saying. This is now going to go to the Supreme Court. Given the fact that they ruled to reverse Roe v. Wade, I feel like odds are this is not going to stick, in the sense that I feel like the mail-in part will go away.
Yeah, and we can thank Louisiana for starting this lawsuit. Louisiana was the one that sued the FDA, saying you need to restrict this drug because it's effectively allowing abortions. But then it's complicated.
The great state of Louisiana just keeps causing stress. They do this all the time. I love Louisiana. I love New Orleans. But your leadership, man, it's just, they're awful.
Right, but then they're suing the FDA, run by Trump and RFK, and it's like, okay, so we're hoping that the Trump administration effectively goes to court to defend abortion rights. It's not an optimistic picture. You know what I mean? When you have a conservative state suing the conservative government that actually agrees with them, but they need to do this to get it made illegal. The good thing that Justice Alito from the Supreme Court put a pause on this order for 1 week, being the Supreme Court needs to review this decision, so nothing is changing for the next week. I think that's maybe a good sign, because if it was obvious the Supreme Court was going to uphold the lower court ruling, like they probably wouldn't have done that, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point.
Um,
But they're just so bad. I mean, they just took away all the freaking Voting Rights Act. I just have no faith in this group. I don't know. You're right. In a vacuum, that would be a good sign. But I'm sure. You know what's the next thing with the Supreme Court? I can totally see Clarence Thomas and the other guy quitting, just so they Trump can now annoy.
Oh, for sure. Trump is trying to get them to quit.
They're such pieces of shit. Clarence Thomas. I another interesting piece of news. Good news. Senators voted this week to ban themselves from allowing trading on prediction markets. So they've said we will not do that. White House staff still allowed to, just not the Senate. Also,
we know Patel is going to be active on those.
Well, or Marco keeps placing bet. Whenever they keep sending memos out saying, no more betting, guys. Don't love that. Won't touch stock trading, though. They can't get that across the finish line. Another interesting piece of news, Trump announced that they are going to create a Garden of Heroes this week. I don't know if you saw that. So there's a mini golf course that has been pretty famous in D.C. They want to basically eliminate it and make it like a real golf course. Including to this golf course, they want to add 250 life-size marble statues of what they're calling notable Americans. Of course, Mr. Donald J. Trump will be one of those. And again, he just never ceases to keep doing his, dictator playbook, put his face on everything, make an arc, paint a golden ballroom. Now a marble statue and a golf course in the middle of a city. I'm sure that's normal. Any thoughts on that, bad boy?
Yeah, I mean, when I go play mini golf, I want to see a giant statue of Donald Trump welcoming
Which they
me in.
certainly won't make as fat as he is.
Oh, no way.
Did you see that they're accusing him of wearing a diaper?
No.
Yeah, that's been a big thing. He was on 60 Minutes this week where, we didn't even talk about this. This is actually a really good clip. This may be my clip of the week. You know what?
It's time for the clip of the week.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
So, did you see this, that Trump was on 60 Minutes this week? And it was after the Correspondents' Dinner shooting. So, it might have been last week, actually. I'm sorry. So, he went on, of course, a tirade calling the host a awful person, slinging insults like he does because he's an absolute man-child. And this is where it looked like he was wearing the diaper in the clip. But I'm not going to... You can't see in the clip I'm about to play, but for the listeners at home, if you want to Google Trump diaper, 60 Minutes, you can see the picture. Whatever. But I really thought this was one of the best owns in a long time from a news anchor. And I want to play it because I thought she just did such a good job. And I really respect her handling of this. I think this is a great class of how to handle his antics. So, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Stunning thing to read, Mr. President. He appears to reference a motive in it. He writes this quote, administration officials, they are targets. And he also wrote this, I'm no longer willing to permit a pedophile, rapist, and traitor to coat my hands with his crimes. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I was waiting for you to read that because I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me.
Ooh, I think that's such a good line. Oh, you think he's referring to you is so good.
It's so
because
funny.
It just makes him, and look, watch him flail. We're going to continue the clip.
You can see him lose it when she says that.
Oh, he's about to have an absolute conniption, and I'll let the listeners hear it for themselves.
I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, he's a sick person, but You should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
And I
these
was
are
never,
the gunman's words.
excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead, let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote in
You're disgraceful.
the other thing in the manifesto that I think is worth looking at in terms of determining his motive is he had been staying at the hotel since Friday. He checked in. He said he had
He starts talking about the security being shitty. that's what she asked next. I mean, she doesn't even bat an eye when he starts attacking her, but I mean, I feel like this is all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, I mean, I'm not a rapist. I'm not a crook. I never had sexual relations with this woman, Miss Lewinsky. It's all the same. You know, like these people.
Yeah, and he really reacted like she was just calling him a rapist, pedophile, crook. Like, he wasn't reacting like she was reading a manifesto. He was like, "You're horrible for saying that. I knew you would say that. You're terrible for saying that." Like,
Exactly.
Whereas, like, she's like, "We're talking about the shooter's motive. I'm just reading, like, I'm just reporting what it says."
Yeah, exactly. I'm just reading the quote.
Yeah, he took it very personally.
Why would you take that so personally? If there was nothing to be taken personal. It's all right. All right, buddy. And lastly, before we get out of here, maybe my favorite story of the month, I'm going to say, just in terms of made me smile. So this is from the Daily Beast, you know. If you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. Fair enough. But this story is interesting. They reported that Trump posted through the night 80% of April, which I really enjoyed. Between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m., all but 5 days in April, Trump posted. One night in specifically, he posted 18 times between midnight and 2:45 a.m., 189 nighttime posts in April in general, including Trump Tower on the moon, himself as Jesus, him in a bikini, him in a hot tub or in the blue pool with a woman in a bikini, not Melania, just a random woman. Yeah. A lot of people are saying internally, according to the Wall Street Journal, that his posts are sabotaging the peace talks. But yeah, I just thought that number was wild. 189 posts, just the posts between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m.
That's
in 1 month.
Just unbelievable.
It's just crazy, dude.
It's just so alarming for anybody in the world to be doing that. Never mind the president. I've been chased out of apartment buildings by psychotic people that have tweeted less frequently.
Yes, less. I don't think I've met anyone in my life who's posted on any platform at all that often. I didn't realize that him as Jesus was 2:49 a.m. That's a real doozy. Time makes it worse.
Prayer time.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. He was doing his fifth prayer of the day. I just, one night, 18 posts between midnight and 2:45. Jesus Christ, go to bed. How does he have all that energy? It's just crazy. I couldn't do that. I don't have enough energy.
No, it's just Diet Coke and maybe some prescription drugs. That's my best guess.
Just fired up. I just... One of the things, too, we didn't talk about it when we played the Pete Hegseth clip earlier about he said we have the best negotiator in the world doing the Iran talk. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, because they can't seem to get a goddamn deal done with anything. Those guys are apparently the worst negotiators of all time. Everything they do is bad. Those two are horrible. There needs to be more information about these guys out in the public, because they just are like running the country apparently, and I don't know what they even do.
Right. And yesterday, when they were allegedly all negotiating the 14-point deal, Witkoff and Trump were at a PGA event.
Yeah, they're not really doing anything.
they weren't even playing golf. They were watching golf. And the reporters tried asking them, like, please tell us what's going on with the war. Please tell us.
And they said, no, we don't care. Well, he was remember at the big one day with Vance, he was at the UFC fight, him and Marco.
Right.
It's just unreal. Speaking of Marco Rubio, we didn't talk about this. The Congress did a war powers resolution this week to prevent Cuba attacks, and that failed. So, yeah.
We're going to have to do some sort of special episode about the UFC White House, because that's happening in like a month. So
Yeah, the Hunger Games are about to happen.
yeah. Maybe I'll do a special ep on that.
You should. Yeah, we want to know. It's aren't they sending one child? Aren't they doing a game like that?
Oh
they
yeah,
call it-
like send your strongest male from your state to compete in like obstacle courses.
Yeah, isn't it? Hold on, I'm gonna look
Make
this up.
sure he looks good shirtless on TV, Trump allegedly said. No, he didn't say that.
Yeah, no, literally. No, this is what it is. It's the Patriot Games, a 4-day DC-based youth athletic competition scheduled for fall 2026. The competition will feature 100 top high school athletes, one boy and one girl from each U.S. state and territory, participating in various events. One young man and one young woman from each state will be chosen to represent their territory? Ugh, dude, it's fucking Hunger Games. They're gonna be in the Golden Ball with their funny hats and their weird dog masks. And
Bezos sitting up front.
look at them run. Look at the poor people compete. It's so creepy. I hate these guys, man. They freak me out. One last thing before we go. And I wanted to say it at the top of the show, but I forgot until now when I thought about the golf course fucking statues. Is when you go to other countries, so I was in Spain, like you said, you notice the beautiful architecture and the big monuments and stuff like that. And it is, I always think like, damn, we don't really have anything like this in the U.S. I mean, we have the Lincoln Memorial is really pretty, and there are some things in D.C. that are nice. And it did make me think, like, I wouldn't even necessarily be against the U.S. adding more glamorous architecture. Now, I don't think they should do it currently, given the state of affairs, obviously, right? But in general, like, I actually think there's some merit to be had that, we could do with a little bit more national symbology, because I do think that helps the country. Maybe not with taxpayer dollars. It's just with Trump, it's him. He always calls it the Trump arc, the Trump ballroom, the Trump statue. Like, it's so ridiculous. This stuff should be post-mortem. I would even be okay. I mean, Reagan, I don't think is a good president, but I would even be okay if they made some Reagan arc or whatever. Because, like, at least it's even relatively decent intentions. It's not Trump putting himself on the dollar or hanging banners of himself. I do think that matters, the difference, because I do think eventually there will be some infrastructure. Another thing is, if they don't build the ballroom under Trump, what are they just going to leave a demoed East Wing? Like, eventually they're going to have to put something.
Yeah, well, Trump does nothing to promote patriotism. It's always to promote himself.
Exactly. That's exactly right. It's never about the country. It's always about Trump, our dear leader. He's got this week he was also calling Hakeem Jeffries an idiot, and he said no one can pass the tests that I can pass. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you see that he said the first question was find the bear, and he had to find the picture of a bear? Dude, you don't tell us that if you're bragging about completing the test. You don't go, man, I passed these really hard tests. I'm such a genius. Oh, what was the first question? Find the bear. Amongst the zoo animals. Anyway, all right, we'll call it. Thank you, Rick, for usual.
Thank you. See you later.
See ya.